All right. Yeah, this is a PayPal a Patreon request from Lydia, which it was her idea to do the album, which was a fire album. But now this Soundgarden Badmotorfinger, the story behind every song. Um, yeah. Um, we know Jesus Christ pose, which is again one of the reasons I fell in love with Chris Cornell and Soundgarden was that song and the meaning behind that song. And it is great. Like I've been listening to Kiss and ZZ Top and where they have these very more like standardized lyrics, but it is great when you find out a song like the meaning behind songs like Jesus Christ Post. I mean, what a great concept for a song. But anyway, let's go.
You know, I've listened to this album a lot since last spring, and for a long time when I think of, I like everything we did, but it's the stuff that often stands out for me is like Screaming Life and Super Unknown. They're distinct markers and milestones. But you always hear people referencing Badmotorfinger and Super Unknown, partially because they're kind of cool titles, but also because they were successful records. Down the Upside's also a successful record. But there's something really cohesive about this. And as I started listening to it, I had that weird response you get like when you pick up something like Hotel California or Zeppelin 2 or Ramones' Rocket to Russia. You're like, that song's on this album too? And you hear the next song, it's like, wow, that's on this too?
Surprise yourself.
And I know, by memory,
you remember
the
being
tracks.
in that band?
But it's just like listening, and Outshined starts after Rusty Cage, and he gets Slaves, and then Jesus Christ Post, like, holy crap. And then every song that comes on, it's like, oh yeah, that's on this. It's just top to bottom pretty solid. I mean, the songs are distinct, but they're all very uniquely Soundgarden, even though they kind of approach different aspects of what it is to be us.
It's a team I wouldn't want to face in the playoffs.
That's a pretty menacing lineup.
My first memory of Rusty Cage and coming up with the guitar riff was kind of one of those songs where I was sort of still learning the guitar. I think I started playing after the band was formed, so I was kind of way behind. And so Badmotorfinger as an album and as a writing period for me had a lot to do with advancing on it and just kind of figuring out what it can do. And that was, I think, the first song where I tried drop B because we were doing drop D stuff. And I don't know if we had gotten into open C yet, but I tuned down to B, tune the E string down to B, and a lot of things just kind of started happening, and it enabled that riff, the main verse riff, to just be something where you could do this sort of slidey, fast-paced riff.
It created a pretty easy octave.
Yeah, exactly.
An easy, accessible octave. I think that was the first song we ever did in drop B.
Yeah.
I think we farted around with tunings, just jamming, but that was the first song.
And so that was the beginning of it, it reminded me of aspects of other things, but really it felt kind of uniquely Soundgarden to me. I always referred to it as Hillbilly Sabbath because it has like a big riff part in it that's kind of Sabbathy, but the whole thing all put together it definitely has this American feel. So, that was kind of the beginning. That's what I remember of it.
What I love about that is it has this very unique arrangement. It's just like there's this main A riff, and then it goes this like sped up
shifts gears
B part, and then just ends on this amazing, quirky time signature, heavy groove. And I just love the way the song progresses like that from beginning to end, and it doesn't revisit the main head. It just kind of becomes something else and just kind of opens up. Like visually, it's sort of like this weird line that just kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger and spreads out.
Now, I don't remember, but I think you and Terry went in, Chris, and you played pick bass on that. And that the propensity for you to understand tone and everything was showing off there, because it's just like that really helps kick it into the shifting gear like Kim was talking about, where it shifts up and it changes the mood, and it's really cool. Because I always had to want to play without a pick, and you're like, no, it needs that really aggressive attack to it right there.
Yeah, we had like
perfect.
We had a handful of songs where, because I couldn't really play with fingers, but if there was a bass part that needed a percussive thing, it sort of didn't work without it. But there's probably 3 or 4 songs in our history that had that, and that was kind of one moment and one part of a song.
But it really accentuates that shifting gear that Rusty Cage does have. It's that part of that song. Not that bass part, but that part of the song is like, whoa, you can feel it when we play it live, too. The crowd just like, breathes in and gets ready. It's really cool.
And it's fun to play.
Yeah. Still,
that song's always been
fun. It's one of the funnest ones to play.
Well, it's such
the other thing,
cool and unique arrangement.
Yeah.
The other thing that stands out to me about that song is that, for me, after every album is kind of mixed and mastered, there'll be a song mix-wise and sonically that I think is the best, and I think that one's the best. And it's probably just because of, it's pretty simple. There's not a lot going on, but it just always sounded great sonically to me.
Outshined.
I remember having the title before everything, and I think it was sort of influenced by the title, and I like it was just something that stuck in my head. I didn't hear it anywhere, but it reminded me a little of Andy Wood, in that he would come up with these song titles or song lyrics where it's based on a title where it isn't necessarily like correct English, but it's a made-up word or a misspelled real word or something like that. Obviously, the English in English it should be outshone, but I liked the feeling of it. Felt unusual and rock, and it meant something at the time to me in that sort of.
I have to say, I don't agree with Chris there, because Outshined sounds more right. Nala. Hold on, let me go and get her. That was weird. I thought I could hear her crying. But she's Sparko on my bed. It's actually well good. The first 2 days was a nightmare with her, but now she's settling in. Like, I can leave her. I haven't been able to do washing up. I couldn't even have a bath. I had a bath the second night, and she just cried the house down. So all she wanted me to do was lay on the bed with her or play with her. But now I can actually leave her and she sleeps on my. Oh, it's so good. I've had 3 days, basically 2-3 days of not being able to do anything but her. But now she's actually. But where was we? Yeah. I actually think I would never say outshone. I'd say outshined. But then I'm working class. We kind of say the wrong shit all the time. Like it's meant to be Nala and I instead of. But no one ever says that. No one's ever said that to me. No one has ever said this person and I. Everyone says me and blah blah. It's just out, yeah. But yeah. Let's go.
Of confessional when you're not feeling necessarily confident, but at the same time you don't view the outside world as being better. It's just whatever your view of yourself is less than what you feel like you want it to be. And honestly, I don't remember much about the music after that. I remember it just sort of, what would a song like that sound like? And then the whole bridge section was something I felt like Soundgarden had an aspect that to me, I mean, I felt like coming out of the post-punk indie scene that was to some degree sort of musically advanced, and we weren't really showing it off, and I kind of wanted some instrumental part in a song, whether it was that one or any other one, that just kind of stood on its own that way, and I concentrated on that, and that's what I remember about it.
I remember that part of the song that always making me nervous, because I clammed it once really bad live, and Randy, the bass tech, you guys remember Randy? He laughed at me, pointed at me. I think we were at Madison Square Garden, and I totally clammed it. It was so bad. If you hit that note wrong, it's just, oh my God.
Yeah, that's
weird. I remember when I was listening to that album, I was saying it's very Rush in its structure, in its complicated structure. But it's funny that they have songs like that, which Rush talk about. The reason why Rush made their songs so complicated was so that it was fun and that you still had to stay focused, because the songs are so complicated that you have to stay. So when you're playing it night after night, it's not boring. So yeah, that's kind of a similar thing, that to kind of always have them parts in songs that you're kind of a bit nervous to play live, because that keeps you focused.
certainly caused me some anxiety. It's sort of like kind of Bear. It's like, hey, where did the drums go? Where did Chris go? Where the vocals?
What are they doing looking at me?
What the hell? Am I still here?
I remember when we were tracking down in Tarzana, right? We were using the drum room there.
It was
Sausalito, I mean, yeah. And I brought up, well, we should do Outshined now, and all of you guys went, oh, no, not yet. You guys all got mad at me for saying it. Well, you didn't get mad at me, but you were like, no, man, not yet. And I was like, no, those lyrics, we got to do that. We got to make sure.
That was one of the songs where, we were still at that stage of the first time anyone would hear it probably would be live. And I don't know if it was the Central or where we played it, but we played it live to an audience that had never heard it, and the response was amazing. It was one of the best ones of a song where no one in the audience had heard it. It just went over really great.
I think time travel-wise, Chris, I think you're right, and I think it's exactly to date that we played the Central. It was right before Halloween.
Uh-huh.
Remember that? And it was packed to the gills. Something was changing about the Central, and they were going to close down or something. And
yeah, at some point, which they didn't, but I think they were going to.
Right before Halloween, like a week or two before, and it's right around now. Like since we're talking about it, I'll bet you it happens to be the same day.
True.
Oct 20, whatever year, 90 or 91.
I just remember it was one of those things where we still might make a decision about a song.
Hold on. Come on in, girl. Come on in. Come on, watch Soundgarden. Come on, lie down. That's a good girl. Right, let's carry on.
Passing the test based on an audience reaction, and that one, and I don't know if I was sure about the song, but I remember the reaction kind of made it obvious that it was something we should do.
Yeah, and that's why it became a single too, right?
Probably, yeah.
Figured out. It's like, no, it's cool.
Yeah,
sounds really gritty, cool too, Terry. I just listened to it on the way here, and it's like, wow, that's way tougher than I remember it. It's really thick.
Yeah, we had 3 singles on this album. They're all part of our can't dance hits.
The conniption hits.
And by the way, Terry, to include you, I remember singing it for the first time for about an hour, and then you soloed the vocal and there was distortion on it, and we had to scrap all that.
Oh, sorry.
And you stopped speaking. Yeah.
Is that another?
You were super embarrassed.
That was up at Bear Creek too, right?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
And I threw a coffee cup. I threw a coffee cup at the wall and broke it. Poor wall. Yeah, it was.
Well, I just remember having to put a wooden stool out there by you for your coffee cup or your water or whatever, and if you threw the coffee cup and broke it, the chair was next. So we went through a couple chairs, I think, on that record.
I don't remember that, but I believe it.
They're beanbag chairs, though.
Jesus Christ Post, to me, in a way, kind of, I mean, I don't think that there's any album we've ever written where one song sort of sums it up.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess partly because it was the first single.
Somehow that was the beginning of the record. You know what I mean? To me personally, that's how, I don't know how you guys think about it, but to me, that was the first song. It's like, boom. Now Soundgarden starting with me in the band.
It came out of a jam.
It was a
and
jam
we were all together doing.
Yeah, and Matt was
in the middle of
drumming
the afternoon, too.
It's like, keep going. And that's another one, Chris, where he took it home and added the cool parts to the jam that was going on. And then Kim put some soaring guitar stuff over the top.
I think that was part of the jam, the little crazy bat thing.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just trying not to watch Matt drum because it would fuck me up. It's like, if you guys ever jam with Matt, just don't watch him because it'll screw you up. Because you go, how do you do what? What the?
Don't watch. I tried not listening for a while. That wouldn't work at all.
We know that one. Yeah, so I don't remember, because I remember how loud we were at
Fretless
Avast.
cognition.
I remember when we were jamming on that song, looking at the stuff on the shelves at Avast, the old Avast, stuff was rattling when we were playing that song.
Yeah, remember Stuart had built a little stage?
Yeah,
in the
it was
back.
so weird.
I was standing on that, and you were on the
Sitting
ground.
on the ground, yeah.
And I think, I remember that.
Yeah, I totally remember that.
Because you and Matt
you
were
were
riffing
standing
on
up
it,
there.
and I was like, what the hell are you guys
and
doing?
I looked over at him and said, keep going, because he was just doing some drum riff, which wound up being Jason
It was
P.
so fast and kind of indistinct. I could hear Matt. I wasn't sure what you were doing from because I was on the other end of the room, and so I just kind of got the vibe of the general keys change that's happening and was able to do that.
All right. You want to move on to Slaves?
Okay, that was to me, I remember what song we were working on. We were working on Fell on Black Days, which is not on here, which wound up on Echo Miles, Telephantasm, right?
Yeah, like an early version of it.
Yeah, we were.
Well, what ended up being Black Rain.
Yes,
but
exactly.
the lyrics were early.
Yeah, but back
lyrics
then
from Black Days.
We didn't even really have a title at that point. Not that I remember. You and Chris were arranging it, and Matt was sitting there.
You started
playing,
jamming off of the verse section
off that riff.
Of Black Rain.
Yep, and it was kind of in my weird memory of it. You guys just came in. Matt sat behind the drums, and you guys got your guitars on, and we all started playing it. Yeah. And then Chris took it home from there and made the cool sections of the song.
The chorus came from a song that I was doing. It wasn't a song; it was just a riff. And Scott Sundquist and I, who our first drummer after me, I was at his house, kind of messing around. And we were just kind of making up sort of a collage of noise things and kind of editing them together. And there was this dead spot where I couldn't get from one thing to another. And I started playing that riff, and the riff was what connected those two things. And I felt like that's got to be a song. But there was a chant over it which went, "Take dope, feel good, do it, yeah." And Scott would he had an overdub where he would go, "Take a dope," and it reminded me of this kind of Jim Jones kind of scary thing, and I just always liked it. And that riff sort of fit in great with Ben's riff, and then obviously I had to write a melody and chorus stuff over it. But that's where that initial riff of the chorus came from.
And the title had an interesting story.
That's the cool part.
The title is the most interesting part.
Yeah.
My best friend worked at the United Indians of All Tribes Foundation here. I used to work there too in the early 80s at the Daybreak Star. Well, Terry was married there.
I got married there, yeah.
The Daybreak Star Arts.
That's right.
Yeah, I worked a few weddings there, and I attended a few as well. But so there's a Head Start program, and my friend was a teacher's assistant for the program and would drive the school bus. And there was one particularly interesting and colorful kid who played differently with the other boys and girls. And they're out at recess once, and I guess the kid was making these truck sounds and moving forward and just moving in a straight line and pushing anyone who was in his way. But somehow being amiable with everyone else, and the kids were enjoying his company. So my buddy Brad asks, "What are you playing, Tristan?" And he goes, "We're playing Slaves and Bulldozers." I think there's some other weird thing about it, like he had certain kids sit down Indian style, and other kids stand up, and then cross-legged. But so I recounted this story anecdotally, and the title Slaves and Bulldozers, which this little kid came up, a game that he played at recess, it was just hilarious and colorful, and
it fit.
It fits with the music, definitely.
Back then, during those times when that record came out and everybody from Seattle was breaking and there was music going on, everybody was doing stuff. The typical night in Seattle for that age group was to go to eat dinner, drink beers, and go to a show, because there was a show almost every night of the week. So you'd wind up in these different bars, and that's how I would know when I was at a place where there were actual real Soundgarden, not mainstream fans, because that's the one song they would play on the jukebox.
Right.
They didn't care if anybody was around. That's the one they wanted to play. It was like, wow, this is a place where SG fans hang out.
Yeah. This song's a lot of fun to play. It's probably the freest songs to play live. Its length is indeterminate.
It's our show ender.
Usually, right? It leaves a lot of room for, at least for me, from my perspective. And I think it
can be 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 9 minutes. It's been all those things, maybe longer.
But even the way the sections are played, for the most part, they're pretty free.
Or Louis Bolero.
They allow a lot of room for doing other stuff. Louis Bolero, yeah, it is.
I was trying to make it sound like a fretless bass instead of actually having the fret sound. That whole record, I was on the way to recording it, leaving Brain Damage Island to go all the way up there to Bear Creek. I'd listened to Duke Ellington and by Charles Mingus and Double Nickels on the Dime that whole time. Every day, that was my routine, is listening to those things, trying to learn. Oh, and I'd listen to Entering from the early SG stuff, trying to figure out what the bloody hell Hero was playing. I still have yet to figure that song out. So I was all jazzed up, and I was trying to figure out tones, and it's like I'd never really played bass before. So I was trying to, wait a minute, let's imply the sound instead of actually doing the sound. There's one song on here, Matt's song.
Drawing Flies?
Yes, Drawing Flies, where I did actually play his fretless for a second, and I felt like a cheat for doing that. It's like, wait a minute, you shouldn't be doing that. You got to make it sound fretless, not be fretless. Try to imply sounds instead of actually do them.
How did you accomplish that with a fretted bass then?
Sloppiness. It's playing sloppy.
Oh, I must have been playing fretless guitar all over Slaves and Bulldozers.
So how did that song start? Who wrote that?
Face Pollution?
Where did it...
Yeah, we'll stop there and come back with the second half. When we baby, hey? Hey, beautiful? You sleepy baby. I like that story of this, because I thought that, and it kind of does tell us it's a great linking together, and I kind of thought, is there some because I kind of took that for a meaning of slaves being workers, bulldozers being the elites, and that the workers build and the elite destroys. But yeah, the fact that came out of a kid's game, Slaves and Bulldozers, that's a weird, out of the mouths of babes, I guess. It is a great title, and it's my favourite. So I'm glad to hear them say that you knew if that song was being played on a jukebox, that was real Soundgarden fans. Because I love that. That is probably my favourite Soundgarden song. On any given day. I'd say 8 out of 10 days, that's my favourite Chris Cornell song. It'd be the others, would it be Seasons and Mind Riot and what have you. Could go on. Jesus Christ Pose. Outshined. Yeah. But this is interesting, especially to have them talking and actually like remembering and talking about times playing it and yeah. Yeah. Well, that's part one. But yeah, that's the reaction, isn't it, Nala? Eh? She's not listening. But yeah, that's the reaction. Sweet. I know, baby. You could go on my bed again.